Welcome to the Big Game Hunting Podcast, where we help hunters like you prepare for the big game hunting adventures you've always dreamed of. Now, here's your host, John McAdams.
Hello, John McAdams here, and you are listening to episode 356 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. I sat down with Johan Seyffert, one of my African professional hunters, at the Dallas Safari Club convention, and he and I recorded a short interview about him, about how he got started in this line of work, some funny and noteworthy experiences he has had over the years guiding hunters. We also talked about misconceptions people have about hunting Africa, common mistakes visiting hunters make, and some things you can do to make the most out of a hunt in Africa. Now, Johan and I recorded this episode using a portable audio recorder similar to what I have done in previous episodes in the past. So the audio is not up to my normal standards. I do apologize in advance for any distortions, echoes, background noises, etc. Even so, the content is great. I know you will enjoy it. Before we get started, if you want to hunt Africa, we are now full for 2025 and for June and July 2026. We do still have some availability remaining for other months in 2026, though. I'm recording this right in the middle of a very rainy season for South Africa. We have received lots of rain in recent weeks, so the hunting is looking like it will be outstanding in 2025 and 2026. Visit bestSafariHunt.com for more details, link in the show notes, or email me, john@thebiggamehuntingblog.com, to book your dream hunt in Africa. Finally, if you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, I recently spun the podcast off onto its own specific channel there. Be sure to check it out and subscribe to me on YouTube. Link is in the show notes. And do not worry, I also interviewed Kubus at the Dallas Safari Club convention. I will be releasing his interview later. But now, let's get started talking to Johan. Okay, well, good morning, Johan. It is a pleasure to have you back on the show. It's a pleasure to see you again. It's been a couple years since I've seen you, but we are here in Atlanta for DSC together. And it is good to have you back on the show. We last had you on during the podcast hunt in 2023, and we'll be doing another one of those here soon. But wanted to chat with you while we are at the show here together.
John, yeah, it's been quite a while. I think 2 years we haven't seen each other. It's a great trip over here. Thanks for making it happen for us, and really nice seeing everybody and the show. It's I think we've been working together for 10 years, and it's been a long thing coming. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to interview you and Kubus individually for the show. So we'll do you first, and we'll get Kubus probably tomorrow and have him on a future podcast episode. But I guess the first question I want to ask you is, when did you decide you wanted to be a professional hunter?
So John, that's I actually became a professional hunter because of Kubus.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you know, I was in the army.
Mm-hmm.
I left when I was about 24, 25. I did a short stint in Iraq as a contractor. And my wife actually, well, she was my the fiancée at that time, asked me to stop this and come back home. So I said, I did the responsible thing and listened to my future wife. I came home and I did some security consulting work for an old army colleague of mine. For a French company that built cars. And the CEO of this company was hunt crazy, a Frenchman that lived only for hunting. And it was actually quite interesting. In the interview I did with him, he looked at my CV, he said, "You hunt, you fish, and you talk French." I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Well, you can start tomorrow." So he wanted to shoot a buffalo. And I started doing inquiries for him and stuff, and I ended up with somebody that ended up with Kubus. So we drove all the way down to a place called Komati Poort, where you were with us the first time we met. And got out of the car, and there's this big guy standing with his father and a Land Cruiser. We introduced ourselves, and we just hit it off from them. We did that hunt, and then me and Koos became quite good friends. And at some stage, I told him, "Listen, there's a lot of foreigners in South Africa that want to do these things. Maybe there's a business opportunity." And Kubus said, "Yeah, but you need to then go do your professional hunter's course." I enrolled, and that's about 20 years ago. And since then, we've been going like we are at the moment. We've had many adventures and stuff since then, but the decision was quite easy because it's something I truly like. But it was a lot of circumstance that made it happen. So it's just, life takes you down these roads and you end up where you end up.
Yeah, really. Especially meeting Kubis like that too.
Yeah. It's I've learned one thing. If I've learned one thing through my hunting career is you can plan for a lot, but things happen and things usually happen for a reason. So you just go with the flow and it happens.
Tell us a little bit about your career in the Army.
Right. So I finished school when I was 17. Usually in South Africa, you finish school at the age of 18. Because I'm so tall, my mother decided it was wise to put me a year ahead of schedule into school, because then I would be the same size as the rest of the kids. That never happened. And when I left school, in school, I kind of didn't I've always wanted to join the army. I've always wanted to be a soldier, but everybody was going to university. And in the old days in South Africa, the schooling did tests and career, not career management, but there was career advice and everything. So every single test I did pointed towards either the Navy or the Army. I wasn't going to the Navy, so I decided, okay, let's give the Army a go. I enrolled in the South African Defence Force, or the South African National Defence Force at that stage. And I actually went to what they call junior leadership. So I became a second lieutenant, and I was sent to a light infantry battalion on the border of Lesotho, which is that little ridiculous mountain kingdom in South Africa. Mm-hmm. I was there for quite a while, and I was a mounted platoon second in command. In the South African Army, you've got horses, the infantry. So that was quite interesting. I didn't quite find what I was looking for in a South African Defence Force, and things changed a lot in South Africa in the early and mid 90s. So I resigned my commission, and I decided to go to the French Army. Now, I've wanted to join the French Foreign Legion since I was a small boy. Obviously, my mother was not happy about it. My father calmed her down to a certain extent. And I got a visa for France, and I packed up and went. So the Legion is something else, to say the least. There's no... A book won't do it justice to describe it, but I basically showed up in France. I couldn't speak a word of French. My English was semi-all right, but the French don't speak English. So I can remember I showed up at Charles de Gaulle Airport, lost. I asked a young girl that was standing with, one of these boards showing people where to go, and she explained to me in English what I should do. So I got on a train, not knowing what I'm doing, and the train finally dropped me off as she wrote down all the instructions on a piece of paper for me. And I saw the town, it's called Nogent, and I got off the train. Now I'm looking for the fort of Nogent, because that's the Legion recruitment center. That's a story on its own for a podcast, but I ended up finding the place. Got on a bus. I didn't know I needed a ticket for the bus. I tried to explain to the guy that I want to buy a ticket. He just waved me to the back. So my second act in France was illegally getting on a bus. They didn't say a thing. I drove about 5 or 6 kilometers for free on the bus, got off, and finally some old fellow with I can remember he had a French bulldog, and I thought to myself, what ridiculous little dog is this? He pointed me, and I found the recruitment center. It's a very old fort. And you basically knock on the door. The door's open, you step inside, and it's like that scene in Star Wars, in Jabba's palace, and the door's closed behind you. The door's closed, and that was it. I went through the selection processes and stuff, and ended up doing 5.5 years. The initial contract's 5 years. I resigned an extra 6 months, because at the end of my contract, the civil war in Ivory Coast broke out in 2003. And the captain, which is we had at that stage, which was our company commander, he's the friend till today, asked everybody who was on the end of their contract if they wanted to resign 6 weeks for the war effort. Or not 6 weeks, 6 months. Obviously, not a single man turned that down. I was just started dating my wife And I can actually remember giving her a call to say, listen, you remember you're coming down for my birthday? And she said, yes, I've got everything planned. And I said, yeah, well, there's a slight change of plans. And the poor girl, so the first month of our dating, she got stuck with a 6 months deployment of myself in the Ivory Coast. That finished up, and I finished my contract in the Foreign Legion. And I stayed in France for a bit. But Europe was just not for me. I'm not saying it's a bad place, but I was born in Africa, and it was just not it. Nothing I could do could make me a European. Mm-hmm. I decided to come home. My wife wasn't she was my girlfriend at that stage. Wanted to know nothing about it. She's been living in South Africa for the past 20 years. You've met her yourself, so she eventually came to the party, and I came home. There was quite lucrative contracts for unemployed soldiers in Iraq at that stage, working private security. So I went and did that for a while, but there's a few things that happened that made me decide that at some stage you get too old for war. So I decided to come home, and the rest is then we went into the hunting with Old Koos.
Yes. So you meet about what year? So you get out of the Army, you say 2003, is that right?
2004. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, I got out on the 6th of January, 2004.
Okay. And so you went back to South Africa after a few years after that. You did some time in Iraq. What year did you and Kubus meet?
John, 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And then you guys met, you became friends, you got your professional hunter's license, and then was it pretty soon after that you started Johan Seyffert big game hunting?
Yeah. So there's a story. There's always a story to everything.
Yeah.
So I needed guns. Kubus went to me, well, we need to get, I've got a bunch of weapons, but you need to get weapons. So I still did a lot of security work, and on one of the jobs I did, I worked with an ex-policeman. Mm-hmm. The guy was an outfitter, and his wife left him. One of these big stories, and he told me he had a 416 Rigby for sale. I said, well, this sounds like just the gun I need. Mm-hmm. And I bought the 416 Rigby from him for 4,000 Rand back in the day. 4,000 Rand would in today's terms be about $220. It was a brand new CZ 550. It was still in the box. It had a Lynx. It wasn't the top quality telescope on. I removed that after the first shot, gave me a Weatherby kiss on the forehead. And the only problem was at that stage, I didn't have 4,000 Rand cash on me. So I phoned my father and said, Dad, I need to make a student loan. Your dad said, I'm not giving you a student loan. Speak to your mother. Long story short, she reminds me till this day, just remember, I bought you that rifle. I've paid her back eventually, but so I started getting the guns, and we started Johan Seyffert basically, I wouldn't say just off the go. We did a few hunts, and I said at some stage we need a name. Mm-hmm. And a logo, and it's kind of, it grew into what we have today. And initially, we hunted with a lot of Europeans. Mm-hmm. Since you came on board, it completely changed to North Americans. And there was a different mindset to the two peoples. People from Europe or the old world and people from the new world don't necessarily act the same way. But we had a lot of support from a few really good guys that are friends till today. If I can think of a few Frenchmen that I still speak to on a regular basis and stuff. And those guys carried us through the beginning years.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you guys founded Johan Seyffert, what was your vision and eventual goal for this?
John, I can tell you that's actually a good question. We started this with the idea to let's see where it goes. There was no vision of we're going to become the next Kerr and Downey and have Harry Selby work for us and stuff like that. We started off, you've known us for quite a while. Mm-hmm. We start something and we finish it. So the idea initially was for us to start this business and see if we can make it into the market. back in those days, everybody was flying to America and driving Land Cruisers and double guns and Jack Russells and everything you get in a normal PH setup. And me and Koos said, okay, well, we will do things a little bit differently. And I still till today, I think we do things a little bit differently. But we didn't have this big vision of becoming the next Microsoft in hunting. That didn't exist. We just took it day by day. And funny enough, it's worked for us up until now. You know, everybody that's contributed to us, there's always by chance you met somebody that came into your life and it changed things around and stuff. So that's basically how it came, or it all came about.
Yeah, so you and I started talking either 2012 or 2013.
You were still in the army.
I was still in Afghanistan.
I think you were still a captain.
Yeah, I was. Yep. And then I came with Trisha and met you guys in 2014.
Yeah, I can remember how it happened. I asked you, what are you going to do when you leave the army? And you told me, I have no idea. I said, why don't you sell hunts? And you said, you know what? Let me think about this. I can actually kind of remember and you came with your wife in 2013? 2014, yeah.
Yep, we came 2014, and you took us, to all the places that you hunted. We went to Kruger Park. I met you. I met Kubis. All of that. Had a great hunt. Then my first clients that I sent you, they actually hunted in 2015. And so we're recording this in 2025. And so it's been almost 20 years, or excuse me, almost 10 years since our first guy hunted with you.
For sure. It's been a long road. And I think we've proven a lot of success. Our recipe gets stuff done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so it's funny too, of all the hunts that we have done since then, Kubis and Christian came to the United States last year in 2024, and this is your first trip to the United States.
No, I know. It's crazy, man. I've been across the world. I've been to every single continent at this moment, except Australia. When I get an official invite from the Australians, I might consider going. But
well, one of the things I always hear from people that hunt with you and or Kubis is they're like, gosh, John, you guys could write a book with all the just crazy, funny stories that you guys tell us in camp in the evening and all of that. And maybe we'll end up writing a book together. But if we do end up writing a book, can you share a story or two with us now that you would include in such a book?
Okay, so one that comes to mind, and it's actually, these things usually happen, around a certain person or a certain object or something like that. So one of my favorite ones is I have a dog, a German short-haired pointer. He's called Rex. Now, if you look at Rex, he's got the skew nose and he's got the tail. His tail's never been docked. Once again, there's a story behind Rex. I had my original hunting dog was a big old Rhodesian Ridgeback. He unfortunately passed away, and I kind of decided I'm too busy for another dog. Another fellow I know breeds these Malinois for armies and police services across the world, and he phoned me up and he says, "I've got the dog for you." Now, I should have known when he called me that, this is just, he's not going to give me this dog for free for nothing. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, I'll come and have a look. I wasn't really interested, but he kept on nagging me, and I ended up going, and there's this, as I can remember, as I walked to he's got these lovely kennels built, and the last kennel is all fortified with wooden stakes, and it's closed up completely. So I asked him, what's that? He says, oh no, it's so Rex can't climb out. And I look at him and said, the thing looks like, he says, no, don't worry, it's a lovely dog, you'll see. He opens the door and out steps this skew-nosed, long-tailed German short-haired pointer Rex. The dog decided to get into the car, he wasn't getting out, and that was basically the end of the story. I got a new dog. I forgot to inform my wife that we're getting a new dog, so that was quite an interesting debate when I reached home. And I took Rex hunting. It turned out he could hunt. He could hunt like there was no tomorrow. He's probably the best hunting dog I've ever owned in my life. The fact that he is a serious psychopath is a different issue. So this pointer and myself get invited to a bird shoot, a pigeon shoot. A friend of mine is in banking in South Africa, and he always invited me to these things. So I show up with my pointer, and a fellow brought me these GPS collars from Garmin, from the States. So I put the collars on all the dogs, and you can track the distance the dog goes and all that stuff. And there's an old wealthy gentleman that shows up at this shoot, but he's got one of these. So we usually drive Toyota Land Cruisers or Toyotas. That's the hunting vehicle of South Africa, basically Africa. This guy shows up with a Range Rover, the top model Range Rover, the Holland and Holland edition nonetheless. And everybody walks over there and to go look at this car. I mean, it must be a $300,000 vehicle. And as I walk there, now I'm trying to just ignore this dog because he's up and down and he's fetching other guys' birds. And it's just and as I walk there, this dog comes running past me and there's a pool of mud. But it's not just muddy water. It's solid mud you kids buy cookies with. And Rex is into this pool, sliding around, rolling around in it, scratching it. All you can see is the white of his eyes. So I just ignore him and I walk to this Land Rover. And as I walk around, the guy shows this thing. It's got these lovely ebony inlays and it's got the drawer for your guns and crystal decanters in the back. It is truly, it's this high-class British, pheasant shoot vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, this is nice, And I look at everything, but I kind of forget about the dog. And I can remember I looked into the interior and he had these lovely beige-colored seats, all leather. The interior is all leather. And as I walk back, and I'm not 10 paces away, and all I hear is this guy say, "I say, whose dog is this?" And as he said it, I just knew. I knew. And I didn't want to turn around, so the guy got quite excited. So I turned around, and there is Rex sitting on the front seat of this vehicle with its beige leather seats. And what I remember the best is his tail looked like a wiper blade of mud on the back of that seat. And I walk up and I tell the guy, "Yeah, sir, it's my dog." He says, "Your dog has no bloody manners." I said, "Sir, you're telling me something I know." I profusely apologize, but he was unhappy and righteously so. So I decided, I might just make a bad situation worse. So I told him, "You know what, sir, I'll rectify this." And the dog sat and looked at me with this skew nose and that tail on the ground. And I said, "Rex," but I told him in Afrikaans, which I knew would aggravate the guy. "Rex, you're a very, very naughty boy, and you never do this again." Oh, but the fight that ensued was almost epic. I apologized to the guy, and I said I'd get his car valeted for him at my expense and stuff at the end of the day. But that was definitely one of the better experience. I never got invited back to any bird shoot like that. But so yeah, there's numerous of these stories, especially if you go to the bush. There's things. I mean, I've almost been thrown out of a rowboat by a crocodile while all the trackers were sitting on me, screaming at me to hit the crocodile with the paddle. And I can't hit them with the paddle because they're sitting on my hands. And then the client on the side, which was an old French gentleman, shouted at me, "Do not worry, I shall kill the beast." And I just shouted to Kobus in Afrikaans, "Whatever you do, don't let him shoot at us." So there's been so many of those adventures. When we went to Mozambique together, I mean, as you can remember, the famous ferry at Mapai. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, when you talk about the ferry, people see this thing going to Staten Island. But the ferry in Africa on our river is something different. It's a few metal drums strapped together with a rope and Hessian bags, and me and you got onto the car, and the guys took us over. But I can remember, if you remember, these guys were smoking something powerful because they took us over that flooded Limpopo River in record time. But there wasn't space for Kobus. So he got stuck in the smallest little boat that was sinking off through the river as he came. So
I have a picture of him sitting in that rowboat. He looked like, what do you call him? Hager the Horrible?
Yes, exactly. So, these stories, but that's the privilege you have of a life in the bush. These things happen. There's wild elephants coming into camp, and our cuckoo passed away that you knew yourself, old Rasili. He was such a character. That guy always provided a lot of entertainment. So I think that's a major element to any hunt. That laughter and those jokes and stuff brings another element to the whole safari. Mm-hmm. It makes it so much more enjoyable and memorable.
Definitely. And, people go over there because it's it's fun. And it turns out to be oftentimes much more fun than you thought it would be going over. And there's all these other little things that flavor the hunt like that, like riding in the silly rowboat and on and on and on. The time I scared Vasily accidentally by spraying the bug spray at night. That was his first trip ever to the bush, and he was terrified of everything. And he was cleaning up the tables after dinner, and I sprayed some bug spray, and it went, and he went, ah! And he threw the dishes everywhere and started running away.
He was a character. But once again, like I said, there's always a story behind everything. So Vasily was actually my father's gardener at some stage. And there was some quarrel between him and the lady that cleaned the house for my mother, and we ended up inheriting Vasily. My father called me, says, "Congratulations, Vasily is coming to work for you." So I knew him since the age that I was 16. So he's been a major part of my life and stuff until his passing. But there's always some story behind everything in camp, everywhere. That's not just a simple, oh, look at that skull, but that skull comes from this that happened there, So I think that's what makes things interesting as well. If there's a story to mostly everything and everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And oftentimes we deal with clients that have wanted to go on this hunt for a long time. You get people that say for 10, 20, 30 years to go on this hunt. It's their dream hunt. And so it's amazing getting to have the honor and privilege to be able to help these guys accomplish that dream. Are there any inspiring stories of someone like that you can think of that you've guided over the years?
So we've had a good few hunts like that. I can off the top of my head think about old Mike Stilson. That was the Marine that got wounded in Fallujah that we sponsored his hunt. That was probably one of the best hunts of my career. I think old Kobus will say the same. Mike himself was a character. He was such a great guy. But that entire, how that hunt played out and stuff, that kind of, old Mike, he got hurt quite bad. And like he said, Humpty Dumpty got put back together again. And old Mike carried out his own Impala. And he would say it wasn't that bad, but you could see on the guy's face, and he didn't complain once. That might say something for the Marine Corps as well. But that was truly something that would stay for me for a very, very long time. Recently we had, we spoke about the Armstrongs this morning at breakfast. I mean, he was 79. He's always wanted to come to South Africa, and I think he had the safari that he always wanted. We went out of our way to make it happen. But, doing things like that makes it worthwhile. You feel good about yourself, and you gave this guy got the hunt that he really wanted. It's not always about the size of the animal and stuff as much as it is about the entire experience of everything put together.
Yeah, you said this morning you were talking with him, Mr. Armstrong, about the Boer War.
Yes.
And all those little flavors of going to Africa that it's all part of the experience.
No, for sure.
Seeing an ostrich egg if you go there at the right time of year, seeing the different birds.
Crossing swords with the biggest black mamba you've ever seen in your life.
I mean, it happens sometimes. Yeah, we were sharing that story last night as well. Yeah. The story of, this may be a story I share with, or Kubis and I discussed, but the time he and I floated my water buck down the crocodile infested river.
Yeah.
And then when I got out of the water, well, we'll tell that's a story for another day, but yeah. What is the biggest misconception you would say that visiting hunters have about Africa on that first trip?
Okay, so you get different types of hunts in Africa. Hunting the Kalahari, hunting the Sudan, hunting Central Africa or Tanzania. Every place is completely different. In South Africa, we tend to have private land ownership, and there are fences. Everybody knows this. So there's a lot of people that are advocates for only hunting the wide open spaces and stuff like that. But I think the guys have a very big misconception about that, a fenced in area. It's not as easy as you think. It's not a canned hunt like people think it is. That's one of the big misconceptions. I think another big misconception is people think that hunt is out of their reach. it's too far to go. It's going to take me too long. It's too dangerous. I'm going to get malaria. I'm going to get sick. The fact of the matter is you're not. You take the chance. You're going to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I think people, there's a big misconception about Africa is this dark continent where you go and you never come back from. There's thousands of hunters that come, and if you can take that out of your mind, then you're already 50% there. I think, to me, that's some of the most important misconceptions. A lot of guys, there's some horror stories out there about people not even fetching them at the airport, or, they live in a tent on the ground. People think that they're coming to our camp and they're going to stay in it, sleep on the ground and go to a toilet on the outside, a hole in the ground. That's not that as well. I think South Africa's got the extremely well developed hunting industry. There are scoundrels, that's for sure. But there are some excellent guys. I'm not talking about myself. I can name many outfitters that I would recommend without hesitation, guys that are truly solid. I think that's the three things that people could consider.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see hunters make on that first trip?
I think guys are overeager, especially when it comes to shooting. So guys don't really know how to shoot from shooting sticks. That is one of the big things. I think you should be just a little bit more relaxed. Shooting from sticks is like shooting from the bench. You're just standing up. The shot placement, that's where that perfect shot comes in very handy. But a lot of guys put the shot too far back. I think it's something got to do with the way your North American antelope are, if you construct it for a lack of a better word, the vitals of an African animal sits far forward. I always tell a guy the best shot is you go up on its front legs till you reach the middle of the body, and you will hit the heart and the lungs. Those are some of the mistakes. I also think guys like to bring a lot of gear, which is not always necessary. Everything is there. It's nice to have, but you don't really need a GPS if you're with me or Cobus, that type of things. But the most common mistake is guys don't practice enough from the shooting sticks.
What I always tell guys is it is more important for you to be able to shoot quickly off of shooting sticks and make a reasonable shot at something, but be able to do it quickly. It's not going to be a very far shot, and it doesn't have to be a tiny group that you're shooting either. These animals, for the most part, like I said, are not very far. An impala is one of the smaller animals we hunt, and it goes up from there, and so you're not shooting at a small target for the most part either.
No, for sure.
And so it is most important for you to be able to get reasonably steady and take a reasonably accurate shot through that window that you have that may only last for a few seconds than it is to get perfectly steady and be able to put it right on the money.
No, for sure. Another thing I think people could, is just a word of advice. Guys can practice to shoot offhand without the sticks. If something is less than 50 meters away, I think a proficient hunter should be able to offhand hit that thing without any hesitation. That would definitely make your safari a more enjoyable experience, because nothing puts a downer on things like a wounded animal. We will always do our best to find it for you. I mean, me and you know that better than anybody. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, but it's if you can make an offhand shot at, say, 60 yards with great confidence with your favorite rifle, that will definitely improve your enjoyment of that safari a lot more.
No, and you're right about that. And yeah, it definitely messes up things on the hunt if you have to spend 2 or 3 days chasing after a wounded animal.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your operations in Limpopo and in the Free State, how you hunt, the type of animals we have at both places.
So, John, as you know, we actually moved our camp from a small little town in the north that was called All Days. We're now closer to a town called Tabazimbi. We're still on the Botswana border. We're actually almost in the corner where the Crocodile River and the Mariku River meet each other to form the Limpopo. So that river has been quite a part of our lives for a while. And Cobus, funny enough, grew up next to the Mariku River, the same river where the farm is now. And so we've got a lodge, or we call it a camp. It's more of a hunting lodge. You've been there yourself. So the setup, we can accommodate 5 hunters. The rooms are luxurious. You're going to have hot water, shower. We've got a cook, a full-time cook. So your food and stuff is taken care of. I mean, when it comes to food and party, we never hold back. Animal-wise, we've got all the usual suspects. We've got buffalo. You've got giraffe, kudu, waterbuck, impala, blesbuck, your wildebeest, golden wildebeest. We've got gemsbuck. We're trying to reintroduce red-heart bears. It's a journey. It's going to take a while, but there will be a viable population in the next few years. We've got sable antelope. We've got zebra, nyala, bushbuck, eland, the warthog. Every now and then there's a bush pig coming through, but that's not something you can bank on. They're fast travelers. We don't really have a lot of baboons. We do have a lot of monkeys. The bird life is astonishing. There's hundreds of different types of birds. And then all the reptiles and stuff like that. So you can have a very complete plains game hunt in Limpopo. It's on what we call the shoulders of the Kalahari. So it's not thick bushveld. It's more of a grassland savanna. As you know, that red soil and stuff you get there. If we move to the Free State is a completely different biosphere to what we have in Limpopo. Camp is, as usual, very very comfortable. We offer all the same type of stuff that we've got in Limpopo, but the animals are different. You've got your springbuck, more red-heart bears, your reedbuck. The eland in the mountains are something to see. You still get your impalas and what I call the usual suspects, but there's a lot of stuff we don't have in Limpopo, especially your reedbucks, vaal reedbuck, your springbuck, that type of thing. So the Free State is, you're going to take further shots. I'd say bring your 300 Win Mag or something like that, a little bit bigger scope, or use one of our rifles. And, you're gonna enjoy it just as much, but it is not that classic African safari where, I had a farm in Africa type of thing. You're not expecting Robert Redford to fly past in his plane. The Free State is a little bit different. It's still a hell of a hunt. It's truly enjoyable, and I definitely recommend that for anybody as well.
Yeah. So to recap, really the main stuff that's really awesome in Limpopo: buffalo, kudu, gemsbuck, impala, blue wildebeest, zebra, and then, there's smatterings of the other stuff. We take a few waterbuck a year, some warthog, stuff like that. Then the Free State, springbuck, red hartebeest, black wildebeest, blesbuck, good blesbuck in both, good blesbuck in both places. You got mountain zebra.
Yes.
There. We got vaal reedbuck, common and mountain reedbuck. Yeah. So, like you said, two completely different areas in terms of the terrain, how you do things, shot distances, stuff like that. But
once again, flavor adds the spice of life. So.
Yeah. And then, like you said, too,
variety is the spice of life.
Variety of flesh. There you go. We got good eland in Limpopo and great eland in the Free State.
Yeah. The Free State's definitely, I think that will develop into something really good in the next few years.
Very good. Very good. Tell us very briefly about the rifles you have in camp for clients that don't want to bring their own.
So we've got a number of weapons. There's the all-time classic, the 3006. I mean, there's very few people I've met that doesn't either own one or not hasn't used one. We also have probably our rifle we use the most is a 338 Winchester Magnum. Most of these rifles are suppressed. It helps a lot. People tend to look at the suppressed rifle the first time, and there's a bit of skepticism till the guy shoots the first shot with it. And I've seen more people converted to using a suppressor than anything else in my life. It's amazing. I mean, yourself,
Yes.
you've got a few.
Yes, I mean, the first time I ever shot a suppressed rifle was your
Yeah.
375 Ruger, and which you'll talk about here in a second. And it changed my life.
And then we've got we've got 3 375s. We've got 2 375 Holland and Hollands and a 375 Ruger that's got a suppressor on. We've got 22s, 22 Hornets. We've basically got anything you can shake a stick at. It's there.
So it's a nice setup of stuff. Everything has a nice scope on it. Several of those rifles are suppressed. You're using good quality hand loads for the most part in this. For the most part, Barnes bullets, except for the 375 H&H, which we're using the Hornady Dangerous Game
Exactly.
MON. So these are rifles that are well taken care of. It's not something that you'd see in the Central African Republic or something where it's held together with duct tape. And
No.
all
I mean,
that.
those rifles are our livelihood, so they are all very well maintained, very well looked after. It's quality. Like the Toyota Land Cruisers, most people have you call it the CZ, we call it the CZ. Even it goes back as far as when it was still called the Bruno and made in the Czechoslovakian Republic. But it's all good quality rifles, and they all put the bullet where it needs to go.
Very good. And so that is a good option for those that don't want to deal with the hassle of bringing their own gun over. They can use those, or you can bring your own gun, and about half the people do that, and it works out fine. What would you say your favorite animal is to hunt in Africa?
Whew. That's not the easy question to answer, because I love to hunt all of them. But big eland bulls is definitely, I would say, if I could, other people will say buffalo and stuff. I do enjoy doing that. But if I just have to have one thing that I can hunt for the rest of my life, it would be big eland bulls.
All right. Fair enough. All right. So last question. This is the question I'm asking every single guest on the podcast this year. You have to hunt for the rest of your life with either a single cartridge or a single bullet. If you use a single cartridge, you can use any bullet with it. If you use a single bullet, you can use it in any cartridge. What's your choice?
No, John, it's that's a no-brainer for me. It will be a 375 Holland and Holland. And I don't even have to change the bullets that much. I know exactly the magic mushrooms that's needed for that. Without a doubt, I think that's probably my number one go-to rifle.
Yeah, I expect nothing less out of you. You can hunt elephant with it, and you can hunt diker with it, and everything in between.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you find ammo everywhere. So it's something that's been proving itself since, I think, 1912. It's older than 100 years.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, very good, Johan. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, and it is great having you on the show again.
John, thank you very, very much, and it's such a pleasure to see you guys here in America.
Okay, like I said earlier, visit bestsafarihunt.com for more details on our hunts in Africa, or email me, john@thebiggamehuntingblog.com, to book your dream hunt in Africa if you would like to hunt with Johan, Kubis, and or Christian. Remember, you can make your dream hunt turn into a reality, and we can help. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.
This show may be over, but we have plenty more for you on our website. For more information on today's topic, as well as lots of other useful hunting resources, head over to thebiggamehuntingblog.com. We look forward to having you back for the next episode. But until then, happy hunting.
Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of casino-style games like bingo, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere, with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. T&Cs apply.